Assalamualaikum. Hello students. Apa kabar? Sehat selalu ya. I am Mestika Zuriati. I am an English teacher. Right now, I teach in a vocational school in Siak Regency, Riau Province. I am a teacher in SMK 1 Dayun. I hope you all stay healthy. Masih semangat ya belajar di rumah? Okay, for this time, I will explain about Analytical Exposition text and Hortatory Exposition text. Have fun! Okay, now we come to the definition of Analytical Exposition text. The definition of Analytical Exposition text is a type of spoken or written text that is intended to persuade the listener or reader by presenting arguments to analyze or explain how and why. Pengertian dari Analytical Exposition text. Analytical Exposition text adalah jenis teks lisan dan tertulis yang bertujuan untuk membujuk pendengar ataupun pembaca dengan memberikan berbagai argumentasi untuk menjelaskan bagaimana dan kenapa. There are two purposes of Analytical Exposition text. The first one is to persuade by presenting arguments, and the second one is to tell the reader that something is important. Jadi, ada dua tujuan dari teks Analytical Exposition. Tujuan yang pertama adalah untuk membujuk pembaca dengan memberikan berbagai argumen. Tujuan yang kedua adalah untuk memberitahu pembaca bahwa sesuatu itu adalah hal yang penting. The generic structure of Analytical Exposition text. There are three generic structures of Analytical Exposition text. The first one is thesis. It introduces topic and indicates the writer's position. The writer also outlines the main arguments to be presented. And the argument. Argument shows a series of arguments that support the thesis. And conclusion. In this stage, the writer restates his or her point of view. Jadi, pada bagian tesis, penulis harus memberitahu pembaca tentang topik utama yang akan ditulisnya. Tesis selalu bisa kamu temukan di paragraf pertama teks. Di bagian ini, pembaca juga bisa melihat mengapa penulis memberikan pendapat terhadap hal yang menjadi topiknya. Yang kedua adalah argumen. Argumen. Di paragraf selanjutnya, kamu bisa menemukan bagian arguments. Pada bagian ini, penulis akan menuliskan pendapat untuk mendukung topik utama yang telah disampaikan sebelumnya. Biasanya, dalam analytical exposition terdapat lebih dari 2 argumen. Semakin banyak argumen yang ditampilkan, pembaca akan semakin percaya bahwa topik yang dibahas adalah topik yang penting atau membutuhkan perhatian. Yang ketiga adalah conclusion, bisa juga disebut dengan reiteration. Nah, pada bagian ini selalu terletak di akhir teks dan menjadi paragraf penutup tulisan. Conclusion berisi penegasan kembali posisi dan pendapat penulis terhadap topik utama. Okay, this is the language feature of analytical exposition text. The first one is simple present tense. For example, in my opinion, elementary school teacher works hard. English is the world's most important language. Works and is indicate simple present tense. Jadi, di dalam teks analytical exposition ada tenses simple present tense. Contohnya kata-kata works dan is. Itu menandakan bahwa kalimat itu termasuk simple present tense. Selanjutnya ada connectors. Connectors to mention several parts of arguments. Firstly, first, moreover, secondly, second, furthermore, finally, also, etc. Connector mempunyai 2 tujuan. To mention several parts of arguments and to summarize or conclude the points. Summarizing, in short, in a word, in brief, to sum up. Jadi kalau untuk menyimpulkan sebuah kalimat, sebaiknya penulis menggunakan kata-kata connectors seperti in short, in a word, in brief, to sum up. Concluding, untuk menyimpulkan, penulis bisa menggunakan kata-kata in conclusion, on the whole, altogether, in all, and etc. Okay, there are also some language features that we can find in analytical, like emotive words. I'm worried of his safety. She fell in love with him since her first sight. So, kata-kata worried and fell adalah termasuk ke dalam emotive word. Next, word that qualify statements. My son's friend probably will eat at our house tonight. We left for work at our usual time. So, probably and usual is a word that qualify statement. Next, word that links arguments. Firstly, add some sugar into the glass. However, They have no other way. Therefore, I have to go home before the rain. Firstly, however, and therefore is a word that links arguments. Okay, this is the example of analytical exposition text. The title is Should Cars Be Banned from the City? Cars should be banned from the city center, at least in the biggest cities, because they bring on more problems than benefits. Pollution is the top one major drawback, along with traffic jams and a relentless decrease in local commerce. Firstly, it is widely known that cars are responsible for the highest levels of carbon dioxide emissions, the most common greenhouse gas. Secondly, public transportation should be the priority means of commuting, even after the implementation of urban toll. London and Sao Paulo have reached peaks of immobility in their center in the last decades. London has fallen back on bicycle routes, and Sao Paulo has tried hard to work up subway and buses lines. In addition to that, local commerce loses pedestrian and consequently sales volume decreases. Local residents are forced to move out the city center, making area much more devaluated. In some addition, cars can be good for us if we want to go to a far destination. But, in the other hand, cars become not good for human health caused by the carbon dioxide emission. What can we do now is starting using public transportation rather than private transportation. So we have to know how to use car wisely for our life. Okay, for the first paragraph is about the thesis. Second is argument 1, and the third paragraph is argument 2. Next, we have another argument, argument 3. And the last, we can find the conclusion in the last paragraph. Okay, now we will discuss some words in this text. Is the top of the major. Firstly, noun. Secondly, after, which. In addition to that, in some condition, what can we do now is. Okay, in this text, we can find some language feature. For example, simple present tense. Pollution is the top of one major drawback. It is widely known that cars are. Jadi kata-kata is dan are itu mengindikasikan bahwa kalimat tersebut adalah simple present tense. Connector. Jadi di dalam teks analytical yang kita bahas tadi ada kata-kata connectors seperti firstly, in addition to that, in some condition. And we can find also summarize, kata-kata untuk menyimpulkan seperti so. So, we have to know how to use cars wisely for our life. Okay, here are the difficult words that we can find in the text, like detriment, perverse, evaluative, relentless, drawback, and implementation. Thank you. After we learn about the analytical exposition, now I will explain about hortatory exposition text. Hortatory exposition is a text which represents the attempt of the writer to have the address do something or act in a certain way. Jadi, hortatory exposisi adalah teks yang isinya merupakan pendapat penulis yang menjelaskan sebuah isu secara komprehensif dengan tujuan mempengaruhi atau membujuk pembaca ataupun pendengar bahwa sesuatu yang jadi fokus pembicaraan seharusnya atau tidak seharusnya terjadi, sehingga pembaca terpengaruh untuk melakukan atau tidak melakukan sesuatu tersebut. Hortatory eksposisi ditulis dalam bahasa Inggris dengan lisan yang persuasif. Sebenarnya jenis teks ini mirip seperti analytical exposition, tetapi kedua teks ini punya tujuan yang berbeda. Nah, kalau analytical exposition bertujuan untuk membuat pembaca atau pendengar sadar akan suatu hal. Sedangkan hortatory exposition adalah teks yang dibuat dengan tujuan memaksa pembaca atau pendengar untuk setuju akan apa yang disampaikan. Okay, there are communicative purpose of this text. Tujuan komunikatif teks ini adalah memaparkan dan mempengaruhi audiens, pendengar atau pembaca bahwa seharusnya demikian atau tidak demikian. Here are some titles for hortatory exposition text. More dust bin is cleaner. Where should be after high school? Millions from property markets. Watch your kid while watching TV. There are three generic structures of hortatory exposition text. There are thesis, arguments, and recommendation. Tesis adalah pernyataan atau isu yang dipersoalkan. Nah, jadi pada tesis ini penjabaran mengenai pengenalan ide pokok penulis tentang suatu peristiwa, kejadian atau isu yang diangkat atau dibahas. Dalam bagian ini, penulis menjabarkan sudut pandang atau posisinya terhadap topik tersebut. Kemudian adalah argumen. Argumen berupa alasan mengapa ada keprihatinan dan mengarah ke rekomendasi. Dalam bagian ini, penulis akan menyampaikan beberapa argumentasi atau alasan yang tujuannya untuk meyakinkan pembaca supaya setuju dengan sudut pandang penulis. Yang ketiga adalah recommendation, pernyataan tentang bagaimana seharusnya atau tidak seharusnya. Jadi di dalam bagian ini, penulis menyampaikan rekomendasinya, saran atau kesimpulan mengenai apa yang seharusnya terjadi atau dilakukan. Students, there are some slanted features in hortatory exposition text, like abstract nouns, misalnya policy, government. Abstract noun adalah kata benda yang abstrak. Kata benda yang abstrak itu seperti policy. Policy itu adalah peraturan. Government, pemerintah. Relating verb, misalnya should be, doesn't, seem to have been. Action verb, misalnya we must save, dan sebagainya. Thinking verb, misalnya I believe. Modal verb, misalnya we must preserve. Connective, misalnya firstly, secondly, dan sebagainya. Dan ada simple present tense. Okay, this is the example of hortatory exposition text. Watch your kid while watching TV. Television becomes one of the most important devices which takes place in almost houses. It can unite all members of the family as well as separate them. However, it's important to know what your kids are watching. The answer is, of course, absolutely yes. And that should be done by all parents. Television can expose things you have tried to protect the children from, especially violence, pornography, consumerism, and so on. Jadi ini disebut dengan tesis ya, paragraf pertama. Recently, a study demonstrated that spending too much time on watching TV during the day or at bedtime often causes bedtime disruption, stress, and short sleep duration. Another research found that there is significant relationship between the amount of time spent for watching television during adolescence and early adulthood, and the possibility of being aggressive. So this is the arguments paragraph. While many studies have identified a relationship between kids who watch TV a lot and being inactive and overweight, considering some facts mentioning above, protect your children with the following tips. Limit television viewing to 1 or 2 hours each day. Do not allow your children to have a TV set in their own bedroom. Review the rating of TV shows which your children watch. And watch television with your children and discuss what is happening in the show. So the last paragraph is about the recommendation. Okay, I will explain the difference of hortatory exposition and Analytical Exposition. Basically, both Hortatory and Analytical Exposition have the similar position. Both take place as argumentative essays. Both show how important idea of the writer to be known. However, the last paragraph of the essay usually make the difference from hortatory and analytical exposition. If it is a hortatory text, it will be ended with a strong recommendation, while for analytical exposition, it will be closed with restatement of the writer's first paragraph. I hope you can understand about our lesson today, the difference of analytical exposition and hortatory expositions. See you next time. Thank you. Friends, here are examples of analytical and hortatory exposition texts. Please check it out.